Today we're talking to Dalma Heyn. Dalma's intimate interviews with women on the edge of marriage, of transgression, of despair, of reinvention led to guest appearances on shows like Oprah, Good Morning America, Charlie Rose, and Larry King as a cultural critic, an author, and a psychotherapist. Her 3 non-fiction books, The Erotic Silence of the American Wife, Marriage Shock, The Transformation of Women into Wives, and Drama Kings, The Men Who Drive Strong Women Crazy, have been published in 34 languages and have been bestsellers here and abroad. Her new ebook, A Godsend, A Love Story for Grown-Ups, was written with her husband, Richard Marrick. It's my pleasure to introduce Dalma Heyn. Dalma, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. This is such a great idea, Liquid Lunch. I love it.
Thank you. Your earlier 3 books are non-fiction, and they've been called revolutionary by important critics and feminists. So what I'm curious about, this is a leap for you.
Yes.
Was it a strange leap? What made you do it?
It was a strange leap. First of all, it's fiction and nonfiction. Secondly, when you do nonfiction, I started with some important cultural fact. You know, there was a high rate of depression among young women in marriage, or more women were having affairs than the culture was recognizing. All these facts start this research, and the research for nonfiction is very serious, and you have to quote people, and you have to make sure that your facts are absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. And here is this idea of a love story that I can make up with my husband. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a huge leap. And what's interesting is that for a long time, I kept it over here. It's that this was my work. I'm branded as a certain... In traditional publishing, you're branded as a certain kind of writer. And so if you're going to do something else, if you're going to be a poet or write nonfiction or write fiction, that's over here, and you'd better not mix the two. Mm. And I'm only starting, actually helped thanks to you in many ways, to start to see that this is very important to my work, that the women and man in A Godsend represent the women that I've spoken to for 25 years.
Well, it's partly the change in our culture now. I think we're all wearing so many different hats, and genres are blending together. And I think Dalma Heyn as an author is what people are interested in. You know, your understanding, your insight, and that I found that to be present in your fiction as well, which was fascinating.
And I didn't really think about it until after I looked at these characters and thought, oh yes, here's a very independent woman who's given her all to her work and is a little ambivalent about love. And here's a man who has been ambivalent all his life, who's now suddenly committed. And this makes very clear sense in my nonfiction as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and yes. I didn't put it together that way
until afterwards.
Thank goodness, otherwise it would have had a kind of dogmatic.
Yes. Well, that's the essence of fiction writing. You don't realize until afterwards what you've done.
What's in your head.
Right. So exactly. That's interesting.
Yes, it was for me.
Yeah. And how about the people who've bought your 3 books? When they come to nonfiction, do you think that they will recognize you as easily as you now can identify it, or will it be a completely different reading experience for them?
I think it'll be a completely different reading experience. I mean, I think I've been talking for 25 years to women who are saying, marriage has made me feel muted, and it's not my husband, it's the institution. Yeah. So I've been looking at a cultural problem that is unrecognized. This is 2 people who meet and fall in love and have to find a way to come together. Right. But they're older, which was interesting because that's not usually what traditional publishers welcome. So they're in their late 40s, and they are very ambivalent about this thing of coming together when they're both working very hard. And so it was I think it's a very interesting. Plus, there's a God of love in this. That's hardly in my earlier work.
I love that. Yes, it was the perfect thing for Valentine's Day.
It was. Yeah. But it was also that these are 2 people who have decided to conduct their love affair without use of iPad, iPhone, texting. They are unwired. They are committedly unwired.
Yes.
So how do these two then come together? So the device of a love God who is actually under pressure to
himself.
The heavens are downsizing because they don't need a God of love, what with the iPhone.
That really had me chuckling.
It was fun. And so how do these people get together without being wired? And how does the God of love stay in business? So that was a fun way to handle it.
Yeah, no, I loved it. And you have invented a cocktail called a Godsend.
Yes. It's the couple meet in Manhattan, and so it's basically a Manhattan. But she, Eve, who was once a dancer in Manhattan, is now a maple sugar farmer and lives in Vermont and manages a candy farm. So we have maple syrup,
Right. Let's see what you brought
Okay,
us.
we're good. So instead of the sweet vermouth that usually goes in a Manhattan, we're going to have maple syrup, and we're going to make it with lemons because Evan is from the West Coast, and obviously California is big on lemons, and also it's a very nutritious drink. You've got the minerals and
So it's good for us, in fact.
absolutely, you've got the minerals in maple syrup. You've got the vitamin C in lemons, and of course you've got all the benefits of bourbon, which are crucial to this. But it's a very easy drink to make, and it does feel like a godsend when you're drinking it because it.
At 6 o'clock when you're exhausted from the day.
Or at whatever time it is now, because we're going to try it.
Okay.
Right?
I love the fact that the characters were called Evan and Eve.
I don't know how that happened.
really?
Actually, no, that wasn't. I don't know how that.
Oh,
happened.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, I was struck by that. Yeah. Sometimes you find your way into a story through the characters' names, and sometimes it's another way that you
Right,
get
in
to
a
it.
way, if I had thought too hard about it, I would have thought the names are too similar, and let's not do it. But we just
No, I thought
landed
it was
on
a
them.
nice play on Adam and Eve. It made,
Yeah.
it was, but it wasn't. It was.
Right.
I like that. So while you mix some of this, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Great.
And the general idea is that we distract you so that we get
Excellent.
we
So
get
the truth,
the truth,
the deep truth.
The
I'll tell you anything. I'll tell
Will you
writers
really?
anything.
Okay.
Yes, because I think that writers have to hear other writers' experiences in the traditional publishing world and in the e-publishing world. And we
It's
have
the same
some
basic system.
doozies, my husband and I.
Have you?
Yeah.